Greg, great to see you again, mate.
Oh, this is awesome. Twice in a month, right, already. And we're only 25 days into or 26 days into 2023. This is
Spoiled.
awesome.
I was just
Absolutely.
saying, there's only a few people that I've got to speak to twice. It's like a very transient industry, the podcast industry, and I'm very grateful we get to have a yarn again. I was a guest on your show, and I was like, Greg, I feel like we chewed the fat really well, which in Australia means had a good conversation. And I wanted to have you on our show because there's plenty of value that you're about to deliver.
Well, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed our conversation. I feel the exact same way. I think it's great to chew the fat conversationally. I think it's great to chew the fat in my steak dinners. I think, I'm all about this. This is good stuff.
How have you been going anyway over the last couple of weeks?
It's a good and a loaded question, my man. I think like a lot of guys, we start the year, you go into the year, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish? I'm coming out of 22. I'm going into 2023. What is it that I want to accomplish? I know we'll get into this. I'm not a resolution guy, and we touch base on that. I'm a resolve guy, about where is the purpose and the process and the payoff. But we discussed this too. And then for your listeners out here, like there's a lot in our buckets,
Yeah, well, yeah.
There's a lot in our buckets, It's today's by the way, today's my 22nd wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So 22 years married, 25 together. So that's a deep bucket if you want to.
Greg,
and if you told me that would happen.
Should you be doing this podcast right now, or are you going to be in the doghouse for that?
No, I'll tell you what saves you diamonds actually are a girl's best friend. They do save you from the doghouse. So I'll tell you a quick story because this is where these rabbit holes come from. You ask a very simple, direct question, and I'm going to end up like in a whole other area. But that I work one-on-one with guys all across the country, as a personal coach. In this personal transformation, evolution, really whatever age or stage you're at, how do we want to get where we're going? You're very familiar with the concept and the work, that you're doing. I was having a conversation with one of my clients, and he was discussing that he had upgraded his wife's wedding ring for their anniversary. And I couldn't get away from this. Okay. This, as mine was approaching, this notion that like, I need to be thinking or doing something special, for Kate. I haven't really, kind of practiced enough of what I've been preaching. Now I couldn't get this out of my head. So I made the move, down to the jeweler, she didn't want to change anything about her ring, but ended up getting her a bracelet. And this morning she got the bracelet and she got the card, and she wasn't expecting anything. So she was pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
Because in health and wellness land, where the both of us kind of live also, she's like, well, all I got you was a water filtration system. We're trying to upgrade the water that we drink in our house. So she's like, I spent $400 on a water filtration system that they're coming to install, on Monday. So that was, that's the difference between us at this stage. But man, that's what it takes a little bit. Like you just got to laugh at some of the absurdity of some of it. She's not materialistic either. I genuinely don't think I care about the water I drink as much as I should, and it's like somehow this shit works out. And here we are, 25 years later. So long way to answer your question, but the year's starting off very much like the year ended. It's a focus and it's a commitment on my family first, the relationship with my wife, my kids, our kids, 2 teenage boys, one in college, another one in high school. The changes that we're going through in life. We have more time. What do we do with it? How do we, evolve as people, as individuals and as a couple? Where are we going professionally? What does sustainability and longevity look like? That's where the last few weeks have really been. It's been kind of more of a deep dive into, testing and retesting kind of areas of our life to see where we're feeling fulfilled, where we're feeling behind, what our goals are, that kind of stuff.
I got to ask, Greg, has there been any point where you felt lost through, because I want to dive into the midlife male movement, but I'd also love to know, has there ever been a point over the last couple of years where you felt lost going through this transitional period? As you said, you've got a son in college now, so you're starting to get more time back. And I've observed a lot of parents who spend so much time raising kids, and along that process, they've forgotten about their own needs and their own relationship. When they get to the end and their kids leave the nest, they're sitting there going, this is scary. I don't know what to do with all this time. I don't know who I am or what I like doing or where my friends are anymore. So did you ever experience that, or had you maintained that through your life?
It's such a great observation. Absolutely. No, I have not maintained. I don't think, this is a really poignant area where you're absolutely right, where you can also feel like you're doing things correctly, and you do have a map, and you do have an idea of where you're going, and all of these, and you can still very much feel lost and feel kind of, empty in certain areas. And to your point, like when so many of your conversations in schedules and occurrences and things were through your children, where is your identity? Where is yourself? And then as a couple, like we've even joked, like, well, do we have anything to talk about if we're not talking about our kids? Or how many years have we been kind of like two ships passing, in the wind? Like you're taking this one and I'm taking this one, and then we'll meet up over here and all this. Versus again, like who are we as individuals? Who are we as a couple in there? And yeah, it's a lot to digest. Then you've got, again, mortality. Like, we're actually getting older, like we're both in our 50s, right now. You're getting older. And what does that look like and feel like? And how do you maintain, and not only that, but nurture and enhance the relationships with young adults? Our children are no longer children, if you will. They're young adults with opinions, and with driver's license now, and with, and with 600 plus miles in between us, with our older ones. So all of these are the new things that are in our bucket, of life, that are in our portfolio, of what our lives really look like. And you've got to make allocations and adaptations for all of that. So, I think to your point, like lost, terms like lost, and rudderless, or complacent, and conforming are a lot of terms that like I use and I identify with. And I think, one of the key points is how do you navigate from feeling lost, empty, rudderless, maybe without purpose, or associating or living vicariously through your children or other things, to taking back some of the things that really matter most, and getting back on track.
Yep.
Knowing really kind of what your destination is, but then more importantly, what are the action steps that you're taking each day, so that you're not just fixated on the outcome, but you're actually focused and enjoying the process and this new journey, if you will, new aspect of what your days in life look like.
Well, it got me excited when before I asked the question, I just did. When you're saying we're doing this, we're focusing on this, where, the process is coming out, I was like, man, because I remember you sharing when I was on your podcast, I'm 50, and I was like, I grew up with this idea that when I got over probably even to 30, which is where I'm at now, and 40 and 50, life was done, because the people that I'd seen around me had let their health go. They didn't like their spouse or their partner. They didn't fuel their body well. So they were miserable. When they would walk, they'd have this little shuffle. Like they couldn't lift their feet because their body wouldn't work properly. So I'm thinking, as I'm getting closer to 30, I'm like, life's done. And here are yourself, Greg, in your 50s, thriving, health's on point, your relationship's better than ever, and you're still talking about crushing goals moving forward. That, for me, that excites me.
Good. Seriously, good. I hope it excites you. I hope it excites everybody out there. And I will tell you from personal experience that my situation was the opposite in a way. You know, I was much worse, if you will. I was not in a good place in my 20s. I was not really in a good place, in my 30s. Mm-hmm. My father was 47 when he passed away. Mm-hmm. My brother was incarcerated when he was in his 30s. Mm-hmm. My personal and professional life, while from the outside looking in, may have appeared a certain way. When you want to talk about lost, at that period of my life, I felt empty. I felt lost. I wasn't in the best shape of my life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, numbing pain and emptiness and all of these other things with retail therapy or substance, so burning through it as quickly as you could make it. And the tipping point for me really is, you're saying you're looking at 30, and I see these guys and I feel like, life is over, or my best days are behind me. For me, it was very, very different. It was once I almost did everything I possibly could to self-sabotage until I got to 47, And 47 was the year my dad died. He was 47 years old. At 47, for me, I was like, now I'm in the bonus time. Okay, like somehow I survived. They did everything I possibly could to be irresponsible, to be egotistical, to be narcissistic, to be selfish, to almost like live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
throw it out. And now here I was, like, somehow got to 47. And I was like, okay, I guess my best days are in front of me. I get there's all this possibility and all this probability to regain my health, to put down the booze, to not only reinvent myself, but to release myself from this inauthentic behavior that I was dealing with and going through, but to just be myself and appreciate what I had and try to break that chain or break that cycle of things that had happened in my family, in my background, and go, we can do better. I can do better. And that's really what kickstarted it. So I'm a firm believer, man, that it's never too late. Today is the day you start. They are small positive action steps each day. Preparation, consistency, accountability. These little wins, they add up to huge transformative life changes. And we can go, not to finish up, we have the opportunity today to live better, longer, healthier, happier, stronger, faster, like into our 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, we have so much more runway than we think. There are these pictures you see that out there. I saw them of like what 40 looked like, like in the 80s even, and what 40 looks like today, and we're fit, and so on and so forth. And it's so different. If you just, I think 50 to 70 is going to fucking rock. Like, I just know more. I've learned so much more. I've failed so many other times. I've done so many evaluations of better one or better two, like drunk or sober. Yep, sober's better. Fat, fit is better. Broke, wealthy. Yep, wealthy. You just keep going down the list and go, okay, this is how we operate. Just make better choices.
Very simple when you think about it like that. When so from that 47th point, right, there are a lot of men who will be listening to this who may be getting close to that age, and everything that you're saying they're getting excited about and they know they want to do, but they face the belief that who they are is not who they want to be, and they don't have that growth mindset, or that they've just done it this way for so long they can't change it. What would you say to that, or what would be, I know you gave those small little positive action steps and various other things, but for someone sitting there thinking that, what would be that kick up the ass that they need?
Yeah, it's so good. Hang for 1 second. My dogs are going crazy. So this is really midlife right now. Yeah. Okay, it means the Amazon person is here. So hang on for 1 second. I'm gonna get them to stop barking. Greg. Hold on.
No worries.
So sorry about that.
You there? Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry about that. My dogs love the Amazon delivery people.
We
So
all
when
love
the
the
Amazon
Amazon.
van comes, yes. So when the dogs hear the Amazon person, they start going absolutely crazy. Welcome to the chaos that is my midlife.
In the US, you literally can order Amazon one day and get it that afternoon, can't you? Or is
Oh
that just
yes.
rumors?
No, that's not rumors. You can, and we unfortunately do it.
That's so brilliant.
It happens way too often. Yes, way too often. So you were asking me about advice for
Yes,
the guys that feel kind of complacent or redundant, in
correct.
there, right?
Yes.
This is so key because the number one thing I hear from clients also is, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it comes down to, or they say, I'm not consistent. And I go, you are consistent. You're just consistently making poor choices. So what we're talking about is a reframing of behaviors and choices and decisions and swapping, let's say, a negative behavior or negative for something more positive. And I think where guys get lost in this too, you mentioned, the term lost, is again, they fixate on the outcome. I want to get healthier. Mm-hmm. That's a very generic statement. Or I want to get wealthier, or I want to be a better husband, or I want to be, a better father, or these big general statements or resolutions, since we're still talking in January, versus what's one thing I can do differently today? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit here and declare that I'm going to not drink in 2023 when I've been drinking for the last 30 years of my life. No. Can I swap? Okay. Can I go from 5 to 4 or to 3 or to 2? Can I take these things again, not just with substances, one day at a time? If I want to get healthier, lose weight, build more muscle, whatever it might be to transform, why don't I start with a walk? This is why people drop out of the gym within the first 30 days, of the month. They go from 0 to 100 and they blow the engine, or they try to go from 100 to 0 and they fry the brakes. What I would offer is one thing: little wins, the stacking of one little individual victory per day, in there. Can you swap one soda for water? Can you get up and go for a walk today? You all need to exercise 7 days a week. Build in rest, active recovery, set yourself up for success rather than setting yourself up for failure. These habits, the consistent behaviors that you've been going through, those didn't build up overnight. But are you thinking that you're going to change 10, 20, 30 years of history and habitual, consistent behavior in a span of 10, 20, 30 days? We've got to be realistic. And I think there are a lot of promises or big claims that are made. But really, I think when you take that good, hard look in the mirror and you get raw and you get real and you get naked and you take a no BS approach to it and you go, this is exactly what it's going to take. The question is, are you willing to do it or not do it? We can't fast track this. You can't jump just from one action to the desired outcome. It's a series of actions that are going to get you there. And that we all need support for this. That's a scary thing. Your friend group might change. Your peer group, excuse me, maybe your client, the type of clients or people that you're working with may have to change. I went through a transitional period myself. It was over the course of like 5 years where I had to change over my entire book of business, my client base. The vast majority of my clients that I was working with for a long period of time in my career necessitated me either, being in a bar, or being at a certain kind of network events or being out at a certain period of time and all that. And it no longer aligned with my lifestyle. So no wonder I got fired by a lot of my clients. I didn't align with that. Now there was what I didn't realize for a long period of time is that there was a whole nother group of potential clients and people out there that, guess what? They were in the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning.
How did you put yourself?
Anything you want exists. That's all I'm saying. And you just got to be willing to go find it.
Well said. How did you put yourself first in that instance? Because there are so many men that go to lunches, have, and then they go home pissed to their family and end up having a Barney and whatnot. For those men, I have that same conversation with them. It's a choice to be in that industry. There's, as you said, Greg, there is a whole another set of clients available that align to a different kind of lifestyle that maybe you want or you need to save a relationship or to look after your health.
I love that you use the word choice, because I use the word choice, all constantly. I feel like mediocrity is a choice. Misery, is a choice. There's a Jim Rohn quote. He's like, that there's pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is the pain of discipline weighs ounces while the pain of regret weighs tons in there. Which one are you going to choose? Basically in there. And these are all choices. Now they're scary choices. They could be, trepidatious choices. They're hard choices to make, but we go back again, choose your hard. You might have heard before, choose your hard. Guess what? It's hard to be fit. Get up and go to the gym every day. I'll tell you one thing, it's harder to be fat. It's hard to be wealthy and be successful and work towards a goal, the purpose, the process, the payoff. I'd offer it's very hard to be broke. What you get to choose your hard on this. And I think a lot of guys, again, get lost in that. These are simple concepts, but again, simple is hard. Doing simple well is very hard, which is why most men don't do it. The question is, can you be unlike most, the majority? Can you transcend, from mediocre, if you will, or feeling empty and lost to what more of a maximized life looks like with intention and purpose and consistency and discipline and the attributes that you described? So what do you have to do? You have to break it down. You got to break it down into bite-sized pieces. You got to make it manageable. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Kind of like there's a lot of ways to run a marathon. You could run it at a 6-minute mile pace, but let me tell you something, like you're probably not a 6-minute guy. It's going to take you a long time, to train to get to a 6-minute pace in a marathon versus sign up for the marathon. Find a 12-week or whatever it is training program, work through the steps. There's proven methodology. And honestly, it doesn't matter, man. If you ran it in 12 minutes, 11 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes, finish. We just got to get in the habits of not breaking the promises that we make to ourselves. And we got to stop thinking about big, unbelievable metrics of success and outcomes and really break it down to the small steps in positive actions that we can take each day. Swap out one meal, one unhealthy meal for a healthy meal. One soda for water, one less drink. Get up from your desk instead of sitting down for 5 hours straight. Go for a 30-minute walk. Kiss your wife in the morning when you wake up instead of just getting out of bed, and trudging off to the office, like Groundhog's Day. And, go back to the things. Remember, when you met your wife, when you first met, before they became, what did you do? You dated, you courted, you dated, like you went after it. Well, then we do with a lot of things. We start taking them for granted. We stop doing the things that got us the result that we wanted, the outcome. And then what ends up happening? We create distance or we lose. If you're not moving forward, you are moving backward. And just to stay the same, to stay right where you are, you have to be pushing forward. Because if you're stagnant and you're just trying to stay even exactly where you are, you're going to lose it. You're going to get complacent. You're going to get satisfied. You're going to be okay. And then you're going to lose it. That client you take for granted, that woman you take for granted, that relationship, your health, whatever it is, when you just try to stay the same, you will end up going backwards.
The challenge for a lot of men with that, with a lot of what you were saying, is small positive action steps and being intentional, or even using the example of dating, is it requires planning, right? To think ahead around, okay, if I'm doing 6 sodas a day and I want to go 5 sodas and 1 water, I need to organize that. If I want to improve my nutrition, start prepping my meals. If I want to improve my relationship, start organizing date nights, or as you did, you got the wedding band sorted. That requires thought. And so many of us, as you said, are on Groundhog Day, just doing the same thing over and over again. We need to stop and go, what is it that I want to improve, and what is that small action step that I need to take that is going to help me move toward that?
So you make such a good point. And the very first action step in that regard is to not skip this very first step too, which is knowing what's important is what's most important. What often happens because that is they jump right into action and too many actions. Everything's got to get changed. Back to basics. Knowing what's important is what's most important. Identify what your priorities are in that order. If you say that family is your number one priority, I'd offer show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities.
Yes.
Rule number 2. Where is your family on your calendar? Okay. If you tell me that your health and your fitness is important to you, where is it on your calendar? Let's quantify these things. What they don't do is they don't stop. And I need this too. They don't stop to take the time. The first step is take the time to do the planning. Before you can plan, you even need to know what you're planning for. So what's important for me? That's step 1. Most of us don't build in any empty space to just stop and think. We just get right into doing.
Yep.
Okay. And then we end up falling into that over-indexing trap. We've gone from 0 to 100. Okay. We go from 100 to 0. We never actually stop to identify, schedule even in the time to think about what it is that we really want to do, what it is that we don't want to do. More often than not, it's not about addition, it's about subtraction. We're doing too much. What are my priorities? And then how do I work them in to the amount of time that we all have, the same 24 hours a day? And you got to start getting good at math. Math is scary too, but math is quantifiable.
Yeah.
Basic math, not complicated math, but basic math. And it doesn't matter whether you use a computer. I use a pen and a paper. I'm old school on this. Okay. Write it down and continue to write it down and repeat it. Every Sunday, I take 30 minutes and I rewrite my priorities and goals. So when I write them down every Sunday, if I stacked up all those pieces of paper, every Sunday rewriting my goals, they should look very close. They should look almost similar, almost exact. And each week, quite frankly, they get closer and closer to being exact. Now, if I start to see changes in my priorities or goals, now I've got to do a little reflection. What's happening here? But we have to remind ourselves again of where, if we don't want to get lost, you got to keep looking at the map, right? If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. I've never driven this far before, gone in this direction. So I had to keep checking my map to make sure I'm still on the right road. Or do I need to pivot or make a detour or something's not working or stop to go to the bathroom or whatever? These are like real life analogies. But knowing what's important is what's most important. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. 3, aggregate, curate, and eliminate. Take everything that's out there, curate it down to the things that work for you the best, eliminate everything that doesn't. Now you got a pretty good idea of what's in your bucket. Now you can go to your calendar. Show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities. Put it in there. I'm sure if I asked you, how many days a week do you train? At what time of day do you train? You could tell me exactly.
Yep.
There's a reason I'm on your calendar at noon, my time, whatever time it is your time. It's scheduled. It's quantifiable. I see it. I got an invite from you. We're not here by accident. We're here by design. And that's how it works. Sorry, now I'll just finish. The last one is number 5 is grace, gratitude, and latitude, which is don't be so hard on yourself. We beat the shit out of ourselves for mistakes and not sticking to it and everything else. Miss a day, screw this up, get off track, get right back on. Get right back on. This is the marathon, not the sprint. This is about cumulative compounding interest over time. That's I think what the beauty of, that's what the magic of all this stuff looks like. At least my opinion,
Well, Greg, you just broke that down to such a easy to implement. In theory, easy to implement process. If people do one thing that really stood out just then, give themselves time to think and plan. If you do the steps that Greg just said, and I'll write those in the show notes, you will have more success and more abundance in all of the areas. And I want to talk to you about your 6 F's in a moment, Greg, but in more areas of your life, because you're scheduling time, you're thinking about what it is or why you want to do something and what it's going to bring to you. And
it's twofold. It's such a great point. One is the why, and there's a lot of focus and fixation on why. We could spend a little time here, and we'll get into the 6 F's too, so I won't take up too much of it. There's a lot of fixation and focus on the why. Again, I would offer fixate and focus on the how. Most of us men also, we know why. We know why we want to be better husbands. We know why we want to be in better shape. We know why we want to have more money. We know why. We know the why. And we'll sit around and a lot of us will talk about that. And we feel like that's a good use of time. Hey, we're all sitting around here, talking about why we want to get better. We're all supportive of one another, getting better and everything else. I'd offer, fuck that. Let's talk about how. I get the why. I don't want to waste a minute on the why. You came in here with the why. If you didn't have the why, you wouldn't be here. The time I want to spend is not patting ourselves in the back and thanking ourselves for being here and talking about our why, and how wonderful and vulnerable and everything else we are. Let's get to the how. Because the how, when I know how, that's going to cure up a lot of the tears. That's going to start filling up my bank account. That's going to start shrinking the size of my waist and increasing the size of my biceps. Like, that's interesting. That's going to get my wife to be attracted to me again. So I just love spending time in the how. Because then the why starts to take care of itself again. That's the action over the outcome.
I like it. I really like it. I think it's such an important point. Once again, I've never, ever had anyone say focus on the how. And it's such an important part because we can get so caught up on getting ready to get ready or talking about why we want to do things. And it's like, you might see someone 2 months later or a year later. How's that going, mate? I haven't done anything yet. I'm still planning it, or I'm still just telling everyone why I'm going to do it. It's like, okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm
paralysis by analysis, or I'm never ready to start. It's never the right time. And it's never going to be. Mm-hmm. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the right time. There's always going to be a reason for you not to do it. I would offer, again, you want to even make it even simpler, better 1 or better 2. This is the simplest exercise anybody can do. Like, you ever go to the eye doctor? I don't know.
Not yet.
Go to the eye doctor to check your vision. If you have perfect vision, good for you. I don't have perfect vision. So I grew up with horrible vision. Horrible vision. Okay? Like, I wouldn't be able to see the clock like 2 feet in front of my face, without my glasses or contacts in. But when you go to the eye doctor and you get your eyes checked, they bring this thing down in front of your eyes with all these lenses in it. And they start flipping them around. And they go, better 1 or better 2. And they flip the lenses and you go, 1, 2. And at the end of this exercise, however many iterations, everything comes into focus. It gets clear. You've got clarity. That's the right prescription. You went from life and you're being blurry and out of focus, depth or everything, to now all of a sudden it's clear and it's in focus. Same thing here. There's your coaching prompt. Ask yourself, better 1 or better 2. We have countless choices every day that you can do this with. Do I exercise today or not? Better 1 or better 2? Yeah, I'm going to exercise better. Okay. Do I, stay out late, okay, and get horrible sleep? Or do I, get to bed by 10:30? Better 1 or better 2? What I put on my body, what I put in my body, everything can really be broken down to a very simple choice. Better 1 or better 2. And when you start making better choices, 50, 60, 70, 80% of the time, not 100, because none of us are perfect, your life is going to improve by the same percentage. It doesn't get simpler than that. But in the end, simple is hard.
Yeah.
It's absolutely hard. So don't aim for perfect. Aim for whatever your ratio or your metric of success. If it's nutrition for me, that's 80-20. 80% of the time I make the right choice. 20% of the time, I'm still making the right choice because I've accepted it. I will eat the pizza. I will have the burger. 80% of the time I exercise and work out. 2 days a week I don't, or whatever that math works out to be, because I want to recover in there. X number of days I'll get in the cold or in the sauna. You can start quantifying this. So I just love that process. I get kind of fired up about this. I love that process. Like, I'm not going to say I'm going to read 10 books this year. I'm going to say I'm going to read 10 pages a day. 10 books sounds daunting. I've never read 10 books in a year. Last year, I got to November and said I haven't even read a single book.
Yeah, try and
so I said to myself, wait a minute, like I haven't read a single book in November. How am I going to read a book? I've started maybe 10 books. I haven't finished a single one. So I said, okay, well, what if I read 10 pages a day? If I read 10 pages a day, by the end of the year, I'll finish this book. That I can do. Okay, that seemed palatable. That seemed like a bite-sized piece that I can do. But the big out of reach shit, that's what messes with us. What can I do today? What can I do tomorrow?
Can you tell us about the midlife male movement and how it came to be, and then sort of take that into your 6 Fs and how it can help men and people in general start maximizing their life from whatever age stage they're in?
Yeah. And thank you for asking that. I mean, look, the midlife male, if you will, movement, or what it is, really started because simply I'm a 50-year-old midlife male. There was almost nothing else to call it. I can't remember who first, kind of mentioned the term, or like, you're like one of those midlife male guys. And I'm like, aha, okay, I guess I am. Like, let's just use that name, for it. Because I didn't want to speak for any area in a way or demographic that I didn't really know. I wasn't going to speak for women. I didn't feel comfortable coaching or advising or working with women in that manner. I love the notion of owning where I was in life, because to the stuff that you alluded to at the very, very beginning, this is where my life has gotten better. It wasn't in my 20s and 30s, It's now, called 40s and 50s. So can I take ownership of that demographic in there? Can I take ownership of where I was and try to help guys? Where the 6 Fs and where midlife male really kind of developed into more of a community and more of a movement and more of a, the podcast, the newsletter, the book, the coaching, was when these conversations that I was having with men, professionally speaking, based on careers and the typical metric of success, which was salary and title, and all of us talking about how great we were, when we didn't feel great, but yeah. we had a salary, we had title. Those conversations started to turn very personal. And they started to turn into conversations or questions about health. How did you turn your health around? Or, oh, you're not drinking anymore, really. Or you are working out in the morning. Or I see you coaching. And how do you have the time to coach your kids' teams? I don't have the time to coach. These conversations started to turn very personal. And what I realized and what I learned was the metric for success is not salary and title. That's the old definition. That's how we were raised. That's what it looked like with our dads and even my dad. Get up, get dressed, put the suit on, go to the office all day. Come home at the end of the day, sit down, smoke a cigarette, eat dinner, have a drink, break out your checkbook, pay bills, go to bed, repeat for 30 years of your life. But you're successful because you got a wife, you've got kids, you live in a nice house, you got a couple of cars in the driveway, you got a salary, you got a title, maybe you own a business, work in a business. Didn't feel so good, really. The real definition of success is where the 6 Fs came from. Knowing what's important is what's most important. And that's how it became rule number 1. For me, that was family, fitness, which is really health. Finance, which is, money, however much you want or need or whatever. Then it became, food, which is really nutrition, what you put in your body, fuel. Then it was fashion, which is really style and personal brand and confidence, what you put on your body that makes you feel good about yourself. And then the last one was fun, which most guys at any age are not having enough of, especially at middle age. And that took a while to get over the hurdle of like, does that sound juvenile? Even putting the word fun in there. No, I'd offer that actually it almost should be the front runner. Like if we're not having fun, then I'm done. What are we doing this for? Life's too short to be miserable. And that metric and that 6 F's became what success looked like for me. So instead of chasing salary and title, I began to kind of go after what total life wellness looked like. What does it look like if my life is in harmony in those 6 areas? Not work-life balance, which I think is BS, but what does total life wellness look like? What does harmony look like? And how does it feel to operate that way versus the other way? Better one or better two? Again, guess what? I started operating, feeling, looking, performing, acting, smiling, earning much better when my 6 F's started to turn into A's versus when I was just chasing salary and title. Empty, lost, conformity, redundancy, complacency, mediocrity, all those choices versus get up and kiss your wife good morning, okay? Coach your kids' teams, exercise each day, okay? Put on the roan like you're wearing, and put on a good-looking outfit that gets you feeling good about going to the gym versus that T-shirt from the 70s, and a pair of like things that make you feel good and provide confidence. Start putting things on your calendar that you look forward to, that you want to do, to have fun with. Yep. Schedule them, pay for them. Then reverse engineer back into how am I going to afford all those things? Like, there's your plan. There's your operating system. So that's how it all really came to be. Like your wife's a musician.
Yes.
Billy Mann came on my podcast. He works with Pink and John Legend and all the amazing songwriter, producer, amazing guy. Billy's thing was chase the hit life, not the hit song. And I was like, holy shit. That. Holy shit, that's it. Chase the hit life, not the hit song. And that became the exact shift from salary and title, hit song, to 6 F's, hit life. That was it. That was the breakthrough moment.
That is on point with that last phrase, chase the hit life, not the hit song. We use an 8 areas approach, but your 6 F's, two of them stood out for me that I've never really focused on that I'd love to dive into a little bit more. The fashion and fun. Fashion, you mentioned, obviously look good. It helps with confidence. Has that always been something that you focused on, is dressing well and looking well, or has it just been later on in your life?
It's a great question. I've always been insecure. I've always struggled with confidence. I've always, wrestled with how I look.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the impression of appearance, and I think maybe you find this with a lot of guys that, hey, if you are working out all the time and you do care about the way you look in a lot of ways, like, you're probably carrying some baggage, somewhere around. Maybe you've swapped one addiction for another. Maybe You're wrestling with anxiety or I'll only speak for myself. Like, I struggle with all of those things. So it mattered to me. But I've also learned that it's also all connected. When I got in better shape, I started to care more about how clothes fit. When I got sober, wasn't drinking as much. My skin started to look better. When I lost all my hair, I said, I don't really mind being bald. I really mind being fat and bald. Okay, what can I control in there? So I started to get it. And how do certain things make me feel? Like I use a slide in some of the speaking, that I do. And here's a picture of me in the suit and tie corporate, headshot thing that I do for my old firm, and then here's me with like the beard and the beanie and the black t-shirt, and the ripped jeans. And the notion is neither one is necessarily better than the other. Which one makes you feel more like you? Which one makes you feel more confident? Which one do you really take ownership with? And I would say, again, better one or better two. The man in the suit and tie left, feels empty, not like himself, and choked out by this whole thing, and imposter syndrome and inauthenticity. And the man in the right, better two, is me really being me. And you can be successful either way. It's a question of how you feel. I like a good fitting pair of black AG jeans with the rips in them, I do like them with the black biker boots. I do like a good fitting t-shirt, and let me tell you something, that outfit cost exactly the same as the suit and tie. Probably more, to be honest with you. So it's also not just how much you spend on it, but you get into, it's not financial, it's fit and it's feel and it's authenticity, so that became, more and more important to me. Because that's where I started to get my canvas. Superheroes wear a cape or a uniform or whatever. Like, what makes you feel, confident? What makes you feel strong? What makes you feel like you? So it's not as much about fashion. Fashion happens to lead with an F, so it flowed more, as it is into style and confidence and again, personal brand, whether you think you are out there, whether it's on Instagram or podcast. And by the way, we all have a personal brand. Anytime you meet somebody, that is, how do you want to be perceived? How do you perceive yourself and how do you want to be perceived? We're all in sales, in some element of sales. We meet people all the time. We're presenting something, including ourselves, all the time. How do you want to be perceived? What are the first things that they see? So how do you own that? And then the fun, you asked about the fun part. I mean, man, I don't think that this should be understated or undervalued. You talked very early in the show. I turned 30 and I could think that my whole life is over. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun to me.
No.
That the majority of your lifespan is still ahead of you and yet you feel like it's over. Doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot of fun. Okay. So why don't we move fun to the front burner, instead of the back burner, instead of stopping to think that we don't have it? Because, even when you mention the word fun, people start smiling a little bit more. What do you mean? Or if you say to somebody, hey, let's go do something fun. Or, hey, can I talk to you about your insurance? Which one sounds better?
Better one or better two?
Right. Oh, yeah, let's go do something fun together. Okay, great. Let's go work out together. Let's go for that walk. Let's go climb that mountain. Now, I was having a lot of fun for a lot of years. I was having the wrong kind of fun. That's a big part of this too. Yeah, it was fun for a while to go out late. It was fun to go out and drink, it was fun and then it starts to catch up with you too. And what used to be fun also changes. So, how do you define what's fun for you? And how do you find like-minded people that are interested in like-minded experiences and events and things to do? And part of its fun is the process of finding that. 10 years ago, I didn't have the same friends. I didn't have the same colleagues. I didn't have the same, network or circle that I do today. Again, back to do one thing different each day. Literally get into a different kind of gym, sign up for a different kind of activity, swap late evenings for early mornings, swap, sodas for smoothies. You start going to different places and doing different things. You'll meet some different people. And the fun is huge. Like, what do we work for? I'd like to think that we work for fulfillment, and we work for positivity, and we work for connection, and we work for harmony, and we work for fun. So it's a big one to me, as I sit here. Like, I think this is fun. Like, seriously, I think these kinds of conversations are fun to have, to explore these possibilities and probabilities and get people to open up their mind and embrace curiosity and, do one thing again that's different this year than you did the year before. I put 4 things on my calendar every year now, one per quarter. some type of new experience or challenge, one per quarter, because it gives me something to look forward to that I want to work towards, and that I want to tell other people about. Come on, like in there, like that energizes me and lights me up. Now that's also the number that I can afford, both time, finances, resources, and everything else. That's back to again the calendar management, the having a plan. No more, no less. I found that over time, that's something that I can sustain. If it was more, I'd have an argument with my wife, probably, or it would take away, or it would take away from, again, the other things that are there. So we're back into what does harmony look like?
And that can change as your life goes through ebbs and flows of, various things happening as well. But Greg, I want to be mindful of the time as well. You've got a book out, you've got your coaching and stuff happening. Where can people find your book, and can you give it a quick rundown, and then how people can find you?
Yeah, thank you again. The book is called the Midlife Male. Where's I'll grab. I'm gonna bend over a little deeper and even grab one right here. I went for the longest title, okay, that you could possibly come up with. So it's the Midlife Male. It is a no bullshit guide to living better, longer, happier, healthier, and wealthier, and having more fun in your 40s and 50s, which includes more sex. And what guy doesn't want that? So we found the longest title you could possibly come up with against the wishes of Amazon and everybody else out there. And people kind of seem to dig it on that. And it really is, it's a book for, frankly, people even like me who don't want to read books even cover to cover, or who stress out about that. I wanted to write something that anybody could pick up at any page, at any time or state, and get something hopefully of value. So it's broken up into the 6 F's. So there are chapters, and sections on each of the 6 F's: family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun. And these are stories from guys that have come on the podcast, along with my kind of input into kind of what I gleaned from that, like the Billy Mann story that I was telling you, Hit Life and Hit Song, in there. And you can flip to it. So if you want nutrition tips, or if you want, health tips, if you want fashion and style tips, if you want, embarrassing stories of me in my 20s and 30s, and what that might be able to help you get through, that's all that's in the book. And Amazon is the best place to go get it for the book. You could always go to midlifemale.com, and everything is at midlifemale.com. I have a free ebook, a free no BS guide to maximizing middle age. You could download the free ebook. You could subscribe to the podcast, weekly newsletter. I'm not hard to find. So if you're at midlifemale.com or at Greg Schienman on Instagram or LinkedIn, you will find me. And I just try to get back to everybody that reaches out, because again, this is fun for me.
It is awesome fun. And it's funny, when I was on your website this morning and the ebook that was there, I was like, I swear the title's longer than that. Because I pulled the ebook up and then I went scrolling a bit more and I was like, it's on Amazon and it's the longest title I've ever read, but it's so good.
Exactly. Well. They're like, longer title, smaller picture of you. That's what they wanted both. They're like, hey, shorter title and less you. I was like, okay, we'll see what we can do.
We do things differently around here.
Right. We'll go big picture, okay, of strange looking bald guy, and longest title possible. And maybe that'll work.
It's so good. Well, Greg, it's been a pleasure. We could talk for ages, hence why we're doing a second podcast together, which has been incredible. But I appreciate your time. I've taken away so much. I've got about 15 key points here that I know are going to make some great little snippets as well around nurturing relationships, small positive action steps, reframing behaviors, and even that last little bit there, chasing the hit life, not the hit song, have been some great points that you've shared. And I know a lot of men and people all around the world are going to get a ton of value from this. Definitely check out your book and your website for everyone listening. And if you got value from the episode, please share it, hit like, subscribe, all that jazz, leave a rating and review, because it helps me get guests like Greg on the show, people who deliver incredible value and actually give you actionable steps, which is always a beautiful thing if you love doing things logically. Greg, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. You're doing the work. I love what you're up to. Anything I can do to help support you and the men that can, which I think is just such a great project, such a great purpose. So keep it all up, man. That's what motivates me. So thank you.